Everyone good to go live?
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, everybody. This is the pre-show, which is just where we get ready and just do the thing immediately. But we need to do a clap to sync audio. So after three, so we'll do three, two, one, and then we'll clap after the one. Okay. So clap on zero, basically. Three, two, one. You two are perfectly in sync for me. It was brilliant. That sounded like proper, like it's going to be on an R&B track or something. Nice.
Have you guys had that thing where you do a Zoom like birthday or something for somebody and it's like it's unlistenable? It's like everybody, all the timings are so far off. You're like, you can't listen.
Yeah, like what when you sing the song.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
you'll have like five people in your company or whatever, and you try to sing for one person, and it's like, you have five different timings, and they're all
Yeah.
overlapping, and it's a
Yeah.
mess.
Even in normal times, in normal places, everyone people need to pick a key. I'm like, right, can we stop? Everybody pick a key. This is what I did at my birthday party, and I wanted just
That's
perfect
why you have
harmonies.
so many people come. I went to a birthday party the other day where it's a couple, and they're one is African American and one is white, and so first they just sang the birthday song for their kid, and then the African American woman, her family says, "Okay, now let's do the black happy birthday song," and they all start singing, and they're like in harmony and stuff, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this family, these people know how to." Johhny, do you know this song? The one where it's like "Happy
Happy
Birthday."
birthday to you.
Okay,
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
didn't make it up. It's a real
No,
song that people know. But
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my god, they were all doing it in harmony. I'm like, did they practice this? When did they
No,
practice
no, it's a,
this?
it's a classic. It's a classic from Stevie Wonder.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
so
was
that's
great.
why, yeah, most black
That's all I
folks know
want.
know that song. Yeah.
That's all I want. Just pick pitch perfect, good
Yeah,
harmonies.
yeah.
You
No, it
know,
was great.
not. Yeah, I'm like, oh. I would honestly rather it wasn't my birthday, which I
Yeah, you
do
gotta
anyway.
spice it up. Figure out some way to spice it up.
Yeah, yeah, that's amazing. Okay, right. I feel like we're ready to go, are we? We've got some interesting stuff to talk about.
hmm
I'll get the theme tune going. Oh, do you have an unpopular opinion,
I do.
Carl?
Yes, but I wanna
And
I wanna
you want
save
to
it.
surprise us?
I want you to be shocked and
Yeah.
horrified, and to make one of those YouTube faces where you're like,
Right. And then it's like and subscribe to find out what happens next.
yeah.
Don't forget to smash that like button.
Yeah.
I honestly,
If
I've
you,
like stopped using YouTube because I like go to youtube.com and all the people are just making these crazy faces, and I'm like, I don't want to see any of these
yeah.
videos, and then I just close it.
Yeah. I like that smash the buttons though, because it's like,
No, that part's good.
yeah, it's like you really mean it. And like if someone subscribes and they haven't cracked their screen, is that really?
No.
I don't want them. Yeah, I don't want them people around.
Hmm.
Okay, go time intro. Oh, where is it? Here we go. Right, let's do this. Play.
Let's do it. It's go time.
Hello and welcome to Go Time. I'm Matt Ryer, and today we're talking about Go 120. We're going to dig into this next major release of Go and find out when it's due and pick out some favorites there. I'm joined by my wonderful co-host and friend, Johhny Boursiquot. Hello, Johhny.
Hello, hello, friend.
Yeah, friend, right? That's okay. Just say that. Didn't want to
Yeah.
presume.
they wanna make a mistake of thinking we were friends.
Yeah, I didn't want to familiarize myself in case you were like wanted to deny, any knowledge
Uh-huh.
of me, which I would understand. But no, it's good. We're also joined by, you won't believe it. It's actually it's becoming a bit like our correspondent, really, for what's new in Go. It's Carl Johnson's back. Hello,
Hi
Carl. Welcome
guys.
back.
Well, it's great to be back.
Great to have you.
Mhm.
How have you been?
Pretty good. I don't know. I have kids now, so like my sense of time and everything is completely shredded. The other day I got like a little, news push on my phone that was like, how to sleep better, and it was just like I just laughed at it because it's like I'm not sleeping at 2 a.m. My kids walk down the stairs and come into our bedroom, and then like it's either like we got to buy a king bed because like this queen is not cutting it anymore, and so like half of the time I just like go off and like sleep on the couch somewhere because I don't fit in my own bed anymore.
I like that. It's like how to get more sleep. Step 1 is don't have kids, and you're like,
Yeah, no,
that's
it's a hard
too
one
late.
to undo. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't let you take them back to the hospital. You just like come back to the hospital and they're like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I got
no,
him
yeah.
from here.
Yeah,
No
I got
takesy
it from here.
backsies.
Well, how old are they, if you don't mind me asking?
4 and 2, and yeah, a lot of fun. We showed the 2-year-old Thomas the Tank Engine the first time the other day, and he was like losing his mind. He was like chug a choo choo. He was dancing. It was like
Loving it.
it was just it's like I was kind of against showing it to him because of course now it's like want Thomas. What are we doing? Why are we not
right,
watching
that's it.
Thomas? Yeah, like we want Thomas.
It's got a
But,
point.
Yeah, I mean,
Was it the one that
whenever you're
Ringo
doing
Starr narrated?
this one, this version, it was narrated by George Carlin. I think it's like they just recorded different audio over the same clips for like different
Oh, I didn't
regions and
realize.
stuff. Yeah,
So Ringo Starr didn't narrate it in the US.
I think he did
kinda-
for some of it,
Yeah.
but maybe not on this
Hmm.
version that we were watching anyway. But anyway,
George
my son
Carlin
was
did
like
it.
totally psyched about it. Like the idea of like trains that have little adventures. It was like the coolest thing
Yeah.
he had ever seen in his life. So
Yeah, and faces.
and little faces.
Train with a face is brilliant. Yeah. Yeah, Ringo
Yeah.
Starr used to do it because he'd be like, and then Thomas came into the station, And it's just like a beetle reading your bedtime stories is just the perfect way to send yourself off. That's number 2 on the how to get more sleep. It's have
Is,
Ringo Starr read.
Yeah, just
tell
read
you
anything to
adventures
me.
of train
Yeah.
adventures. Yeah. Nice. Oh, good. I'm glad he loves that. Or her. I'm glad they love that. Delete as appropriate. Okay, brilliant. Right, Carl, we should do introductions, I think. Because people know who you are by now, but tell us, who are you and where do you work? please?
I am the director of technology at Spotlight PA. We're a nonpartisan newsroom based in Pennsylvania, USA, and we do investigative stories. We try to hold government accountable. We finished doing the election coverage in 2022. That was exciting. And so now there's a new governor who has just come in, and we're watching the transparency and how they're appointing people and the campaign finances and all that good stuff. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
So
Keeping
if,
power to account.
yeah, if you live in the USA and you want good news reporting, check us out and give us money.
Oh, fair enough. Will you be investigating who set fire to the town hall?
Oh, so that wasn't in Pennsylvania. So
right.
before we started recording, I was telling Johhny we're both here in Baltimore, which is not in Pennsylvania. But I was going to the post office. I was just standing in line, and the 2 people behind me told me that there was the one person had jury duty, so she was at City Hall doing jury duty, but she had been dismissed early. But after she had gotten the $30, which was important, she'd gotten her $30, but then they dismissed her early because there was a fire at City Hall. And so hopefully that's okay. I don't know how that went. I'll check in for that later.
Hey, the important part's done. The important part's done. She got the 30.
She got the 30. So she's ready to go home.
What's that, like $30 you get a day? Or something?
Yeah, no, actually she was complaining about that. She's like, it's better. It used to be 15 and they've moved it up to 30, but it's still like, you're taking a whole day off of work. They should probably give you more than $30.
I know, right?
It's enough to get lunch. You could get lunch. You get gas,
barely,
you get lunch, you get parking. I mean, if you get parking, actually, you might just lose all your money right there. But
right. Yeah, but you're being rewarded for performing your citizenly duty. So that's your reward.
Yeah, no, the sense of civic pride is the real reward.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, although I must
and
admit,
the $30.
I'd just be immediately just try and get it over with. I'd be like, guilty? Anyone? Everyone else? Yeah, cool. Not really.
Can we get on with it?
Yeah, I'm like, What are we thinking? Guilty? Yeah, I'll just be swung whatever you want. I'm like, go.
But there's
Whatever you
evidence.
want.
What do you mean?
Yeah, I mean evidence. Yeah, sure. We're in a post-truth world.
Nothing is true.
Let's have a look at him and we'll decide. Let's
Let's
we'll
ask
do
the
that.
socials. Let's ask the socials what they think.
Twitter poll. It'd be much quicker. Yeah, wouldn't it?
Oh man.
Johhny, we've got some community updates. Maybe you could give us a little update on the old community stuff going on.
Yeah, we've got quite a few things happening. Personally, I'm glad to see a lot of the conferences coming back and in person, and some of them even doing the hybrid thing. We've got the sort of GopherCon EU happening in Berlin. That's in February. Actually, the conference is in June, but the CFP is going to close soon. So if you've got a talk that you've been thinking about giving at GopherCon EU, that the CFP closes this month on the 26th. So you better get on that. Speaking of CFPs. Yep.
Sorry,
You want to add to that?
I was just going to say, I've heard, I don't know, but I heard the host of GopherCon EU is a really good man with really good hair.
Okay. So he's been working on the hairline.
Yeah, he's been trying his best.
Like using some sprays and sort of bring it back, kind of thing.
Like they say, caffeine shampoo is meant to help. Like I don't, but it sounds might just be nonsense. I just get granules and just rub it into my hair.
Caffeine shampoo. Dang, that's a thing.
No, they have that. They have like the tea shampoo or something. This is one of those things I only know from when I'm a guest at somebody else's house. And the worst part of being a guest at somebody else's house is figuring out how to use their shower. Like I always had this opinion, but then XKCD had a comic about it the other day, so I felt like it really confirmed the truth that like the worst part of being a guest is like how the hell does their shower work? But you go over there and people have like these green tea shampoos, and you put it on your head and it like tingles.
Yeah, but you go into someone's shower and they're like, "I'll show you this because you're not." And they go, "This is you turn it this way and it's hot," and it's like, "Okay, yeah." It's like, right, but hang on, that's not all. Turn it this way. Go on. It goes cold. Does it? Cool. Okay.
No, it's never that easy. It's always like first you have to wait 10 minutes, right? So you turn on the water. You got to wait 10 minutes.
Wait for a while. Yep.
It'll be scalding. So what you have to do now that it's scalding is you've got to turn it just like 2 degrees back. But that now it's going to be freezing. So now you've got to turn the cold up by 4 degrees, but then turn the hot over just like very slightly, and then some of them there's like multiple knobs in different directions. It's like it shouldn't be hard. It's a very simple user interface. There's two things. There's the temperature and the water pressure, and I want medium temperature, like hot but not scalding, and I want high water pressure. Personally, I don't know, maybe you guys want low, but it's like there's only 2 things, but somehow it's very difficult to get it to work.
Yeah. It sounds like there's nothing generic about this interface, huh?
No. Yeah, no, they need to good point. Yeah, they need to use generics for this. I don't know, like redo the implementation and
So Johhny, have you just been using decaf shampoo all this time?
this whole time, like I didn't know. I just was clueless. I could be so much more, hyped up with every meeting I go to. Be like, hey everybody, how are you doing today? Let's talk about some code. Yeah,
I love that. It's like I've had one coffee, but I've washed my hair 3 times, so I'm really ramped. I'm really jacked up.
Jacked up, ready to go. Cool.
Any more CFPs?
Yes, indeed, there are more CFPs. GopherCon, which is near and dear to my heart, is happening in September, and March 13th is the deadline to submit your proposal. And as with, I'm sure with every CFP, with every conference, at least the ones that I'm familiar with, there's always a sort of a deluge of a talk coming in towards the end of the deadline, So please don't do that. If you can manage it, because the reviewers, while they love to see your talks, getting a massive amount of talk proposals all on the last day adds a certain level of stress. We're not complaining. You're not complaining. We still get through it. You still do it. But yeah, it's a labor of love. Let's just call it that. But
Right.
yes, March 13th is the deadline for GopherCon.
Get your papers in. Don't DDoS the team.
Don't exactly. Please don't DDoS us. GopherCon UK is also coming up in August. The CFE product is not yet open, but stay tuned for that. I'm sure it'll be all over the socials once that information comes out. And we also have some local meetups. Mr. Ryer, why don't you tell us about those?
Well, yeah, I always like to do a shout at. It's not a shout out. I think that's might be a US term, like a shout out to something.
You can borrow it.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I borrowed it, but I got it wrong, so I said shout at. So we're just going to shout at the London Gophers.
Try not to do that.
Yeah. So it's London Gophers meetup. February 22nd, that is. By the way, I feel like we should say the year because, this,
You're allowed to listen to old episodes.
You are allowed to listen. And in 2091, when this is the biggest entertainment show in the world because of the event, and this is all that survives, we should tell people the year is 2023 right now. Not to age myself. Does it?
Right.
No.
Well, I think people will be able to remember the year though, because what happened in 2023, February 1st of 2023, is the release of Go 1.20. Unbelievable.
Major event, which actually some people believe was the cascading event that led to the destruction of everything. But no, we're not going to get into that. Actually, by the way, if you haven't heard the episode with Ron Evans that we did, I recommend it. Ron Evans, it basically hacked in. We were doing a Go Time episode. Ron Evans hacked in from the future and told us all these warnings about Go's future, and the production value was amazing. And he went to a studio and did this. I got to hang out with him at FOSDEM recently, and he's such a great guy. He's like energy in person. That's
nonstop.
It's just his energy is amazing. So, but you're right.
He's a total nerd. Total, he geeks out on everything and anything. He's a wonderful person.
He does a lot with Tiny Go and hardware and stuff, and that's always very exciting. At FOSDEM, he released a balloon that it was done tracking and things. I think the US may have shot
the
it
Chinese.
down.
Yeah, no, that was him.
China.
The balloon that flew overhead. He came from Ron Evans' lab.
It's just got a tiny gopher on the bottom, and they're like, we don't know what the Chinese are doing here.
Shoot a sidewinder at the gopher, please.
There you go. Bit of topical news mixed in for your Go Time. So like and subscribe. Smash that like button and punch the subscribe in the face. I don't know how we say it. How do cool people say that?
No, you got it. Smash the button.
Kick
I mean,
it.
the punch in the face is new, but I think we could work it in. Yeah, we could.
Okay. Well, if you enjoy the show, uppercut the share button. Send that over. Do a roundhouse kick on your socials and share it that way, please. But whatever you do, don't share things peacefully. That's boring.
Yeah, nobody wants peace and calm.
No. But so much can go wrong with that. So, which leads us nicely onto our first topic here. Sometimes not just one thing goes wrong, many things go wrong. But because in Go we return an error as the second argument. It's kind of tricksy. It's been solved lots of ways, but sometimes you want to return a set of errors. Maybe you're doing some work on an array of data, and it's okay if some don't succeed and some do, and you kind of want to know that. And we're going to get multi-errors. Is that right, Carl?
Right. So Go 1.20 was just released a few days ago as of this recording, and it has a lot of new features. One of them is multi-errors. So multi-errors are a feature that have been sort of bubbling in the background for years. I looked it up because I was interested in exactly when this happened, but there's a popular multi-error package, and it's let's see here. There's one that's from HashiCorp, and it was released. Implementation was released in 2014. So that's
Wow.
9 years ago that people have been, making multi-errors. So maybe just to take a step back. So in Go, errors are values, right? They're not anything special in terms of the language. There's nothing in the language that designates errors as being a particular thing that have to be returned in a special way. It's just the same way that you would return an int, or you could return a string, or you could return a floating point or a struct. You can return an error. And an error is just an interface, and the only requirement of that interface is that you have a method called error that returns a string, and by convention, that string, explains something about what went wrong. And so apparently all the way back in 2014, HashiCorp released a multi-error thing where all it did is it just took a slice, so basically a variable length array of errors, and it gave it an error method. And so now you can have a bunch of errors and collect them into one. And so if there's something that needs to just return an error, it can actually pack in multiple errors in one spot. So this is something that people in the community have been doing forever. But in Go 1.20, it was finally made part of the actual language itself. And there had been proposals to add it to the standard library for a long time. Again, like I was interested in what one of the older proposals was, and I found a proposal from 2017 to add it to the standard library. So I guess that's about 4 years ago. Somebody proposed adding it to the standard library. Is that right? No. How many years? 23 minus 17. What is that? No, that's more than 4.
Johhny?
Anyway.
Can you
3
do
Oh, I can't do
plus
math. I haven't had coffee yet.
6. It's 5
Oh,
or 6
well,
years ago. Okay,
Go
something
and
like
wash your
that.
hair. Go and wash your hair.
Go wash your
I need to
hair. Come
my
back.
hair. I need to wash my hair. Yeah.
So anyway, there have been long time proposals to add this to the language into the standard library, but it never was added before because there's always been this like sort of tricky, weird case. Like if you just have your own particular error type, and it happens to be a multi-error, you're probably not going to run into this. But if it's in the standard library, a problem that you can get is what happens if you have a multi-error that has more multi-errors in it, right?
Whoa.
Yeah.
A
So like if you have
hierarchy of errors?
yes, a
What?
hierarchy of errors. So like traditionally what would happen is it would just like flatten all the errors out. So if you have one error and it's a multi-error, so it has 2 errors in it, and then you have another thing, and then you glom them together, and it'll just make a single multi-error with 3 errors in it. And that's fine, except for in some cases you can lose data when you do this. So it gets a little bit confusing. But finally, there was a proposal just recently that got accepted by the Go proposal committee, and this is by Damien Neal. And so in this proposal, what it does is instead of just flattening all the errors down into a single slice, it leaves it as a tree. And so when you do it this way, then any of the errors in the collection can still be accessed, and you're not losing data when you flatten it out. So again, it's something where if you're just making your own multi-error library, it's probably not a big deal because you know when you're doing multi-errors. But if multi-errors are in the standard library and then suddenly everybody's returning multi-errors, then you could just run into this issue where you're like, oh, I didn't realize this was a multi-error, and then things kind of blow up.
That's interesting, yeah. I mean, I've definitely had this use case of needing to do this, and I think I've used the HashiCorp one, or I certainly used a project that had that one that was, how they did it. When you said like error of trees, it made me think of like I have a tree. I was given an actual tree, and they were told like, look after this. You could just water it and things. Yeah, dead. Yeah, within a week. So,
was it already grown?
It was like a little. It was like a not little, but it's really sad. But it's just like its leaves just all fell off.
So you killed a child tree.
Yeah, I did. That was just one error, though, I suppose. So I could have just used a normal one for that. But yeah.
Could have just used a single error for that. Well, one place where this is nice is if in your application you use errors.is to create like some sort of a hierarchy. So let's say you have a database error and it can't find a row, but then you want to turn that into like a 404 in your HTTP handler somewhere else. So something that you might do for your application is to say, in my application, if this database error represents a 404, I'm going to say that this error is, DB or is http.notfound or something, http.error.notfound or something. So you can make up your own little domain of these are the errors that I know about. And when I get these errors, then I'm going to do this particular kind of response. And so traditionally that's been a little bit of plumbing to make it but now you can do it very easily because when you do fumpt.errorf, so the format package, the FMT package, before you could only include one error in your format string with the %w, but now you can do multiple %w's. So you can just say, I'm going to create this error and I'll include my not found error and I'll include the database error. And so then those two can be smashed together just very quickly and easily without having to like create your own type and have it, respond to both selectors and stuff. It's just, you just use the built-in standard library stuff and you don't have to go and write your own type or use a third-party package to make it happen.
So when you do error is on a multi-error, if there are multiple errors in there, does it just check if any of them, how does it behave?
Yeah. So in this case, the is, a fact about me is that I have a PhD in philosophy. And so one of the things about is that there are multiple meanings. This is also American President Bill Clinton once said, what is the definition of the word is, right? It depends on what the meaning of the word is. So there's multiple meanings of is. And so sometimes when you say is, like in Python, if you say X is none, it means that X is identical to none. But in this case, when we say errors.is whatever, we don't mean that they're identical. We mean that they're, to use the philosophy term, they're predicating. So one error is any of the errors inside of the multi-error, right? So if the multi-error has 10 different things in it, then it is all of those 10 different things, even though you would think because maybe it should be errors.r because it's plural. Yeah.
Thanks, Carl. That's really cleared it up.
I hope everybody's properly been putting a lot of caffeine in their hair before they heard that one.
When Bill Clinton said that, was it around the time of his scandal?
Yes, it was absolutely part of the scandal. He was being deposed by a lawyer.
What you mean. What is?
Yeah, he's like, what is it when you have an affair? Who's to say what the affair is?
Wow. Yeah, it's not even questioning that though. It's just like, wow, what is? Let's get down
to that, and then I'll tell you about what may or may not have gone on.
Yeah. Well, if you liked that very clear explanation from Carl, don't forget to smash the subscribe button. And the harder you smash it, the harder we'll try to actually make sense from now on. Nice.
Indeed.
That's cool.
Indeed. So we had some changes for relating to generics as well, didn't we? What's the deal with the comparable and the interfaces and compile time versus runtime, and like what can you clear that up as well or better than you just did for the multi-errors?
Oh man, I think this is going to go about as well as the multi-errors, to be honest.
What is change?
What is change? What is comparable? So this is it's one of those definition things. So in the Go spec, there's this idea of comparable types and then types that are not comparable. So a comparable type is like if you have two strings, you can say string X equals string Y, or string X does not equal string Y, right? And it's very simple. If they're the same, then they're comparable, and if they're not. But there are things that are not comparable in Go. So if you have two slices, you cannot say, does slice 1 equal slice 2? And part of that is just because it's a little bit ambiguous. It's that ambiguity of, do you mean that these two slices are identical, or do you mean that these two slices have the same contents? So there could be like, if you have a slice that's 1, 2, 3, it could be they both are 1, 2, 3, but they actually are different areas in memory. So if you modified one, you wouldn't be modifying the other. And so anyway, just to get rid of the ambiguity, you're just not allowed to compare slices to each other. You can only compare them to nil. That's the only legal comparison you can make. And so for interface types, this gets a little bit weird. So if you have an interface type and you want to say, is x equal to y, and x and y are both some interface type, you can do that even if the type of x, the concrete type underneath the interface, is something that wouldn't normally be comparable. So let's say you're comparing two errors, and you want to say, does error 1 equal error 2? And it just so happens that error 1 is implemented by a slice, or error 2 is implemented by a function, and those are not comparable types. Well, because we're just thinking about them as errors, it's okay. We can do that. The language will let you do it, and it's only going to blow up if it gets down to brass tacks and it finds out that, you know what, these two, error 1 and error 2, are both implemented by slices, and so the only way I could tell you if they're the same is if I compare the slices, and I'm not allowed to compare slices, and so then it'll panic at runtime. So that's sort of just all background for when generics were introduced. Generics have a keyword called comparable. I think it's maybe technically not a keyword. It might be like a pre-declared identifier, but whatever. It's essentially a keyword. So comparable, when you're doing a generic, you have to be able to say what you want the types to be. So if you want to do a generic over a map, you could say, I want there to be this type K, and it should be comparable, which means it's usable as a key in a map. And I want this type V, and it can just be any type because it's the value of the map, and I don't care what the value is. So for a while, the problem was that in Go, even with generics, you couldn't write a generic function for a map that used interfaces as the key type because they weren't considered to be generically comparable. Because there was that risk of it blowing up at runtime, of it panicking at runtime, the Go team were trying to be very conservative and say, let's just leave that out of generics, at least for now, so that, you know, we can, if we decide later that we want to make it more expansive, which is what they did, nobody's going to have their code broken. But if we decide later that we want to make it more narrow, well, then people will have their code broken. So they started off with just a very narrow definition of what a generically comparable thing was, and now they've expanded it to include interfaces as well, even though it runs that runtime risk of having a panic.
Got you. I really like that approach that they took with the design there, which is like, we could make progress, let's not overcommit. Yeah, that's interesting.
You see that a lot with how the Go team sort of make their decisions, that there's this idea of, well, can we back out of the decision later? Or we have this Go 1 compatibility guarantee. We don't want to commit to something if we're going to need to change it later. And so, you know, with multi-errors, like we were saying, you can go back 9 years of people having multi-errors and, you know, another 6 years of people wanting it to be in the standard library, but they were still like, I don't know, we might want to change how it works later. And it's only in Go 1.20 that they've said, okay, we think we've got a design here where we're very happy with it and we're not going to want to change it later. And so, yeah, the same thing for this comparable part of generics. They're adding generics to the language, but they didn't want to be like, oh, you're using generics 1.0, but in generics 1.1, we've changed it, and now all your code is broken. So, you know, update, please.
Yeah. Well, and you know, I think that is a lesson that all of us can actually apply to our job. And it sounds strange, I think, to some people when they first hear that, but like, can we like do something now that doesn't tie our hands, doesn't paint us into a corner, so that we can change it later? Design for that flexibility. We've talked about this before, Johhny, about using like a string instead of a bool. And Johhny, you said use a timestamp instead of a bool, which is basically, I think you said it was true if it was your exact birthday, if not false.
Yes, it was exactly Johnny's birthday.
Exactly.
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 And that's true. and everything else
Mhm.
is false. No, but they do it like, if it's deleted, then it's a timestamp in there. Otherwise, it's empty, and that's how you know it's not deleted. I think that sort of future-proof design thing is something we can all get a little bit better at and take the lead from the Go team on that one.
I've heard that at Amazon, one of the things that the managers do when they make decisions is they say, is this a decision that's reversible or not reversible? And if it's a reversible decision, okay, just do it, whatever your gut says, just do the first thing, and we'll run with it. And then if it's bad, we'll, take it back. But then if it's an irreversible decision, then we really need to sit down and have a lot of meetings and have a drawn out process to make the decision, because we're not just going to like, okay, S3 was a good experiment. We're turning it off though. S3 is going away tomorrow, guys. Turned out they wanted S4. So
one of the tricks or engineering hacks that I like to use is when I'm creating a decision record for one approach or another, or choosing a technology over another, or a library over another, right? Whenever there's contention around, well, some people think we should do this, some people think we should do that, right? I whip out a good old decision record, right? That says, okay, we're gonna go this way because reasons X, Y, and Z, right? One of the things I've started doing is also include in there, when will this solution no longer be applicable or required, right? When do we deprecate this, right?
Wow.
What must be true in order for this to no longer be needed or wanted, right? Because if you're gonna make compromises, right? If you're gonna make a trade-off, when you no longer need to, right? It would be nice if you can remove that, because if you leave it there, it just becomes technical debt. That's something somebody now, perhaps you in the future, or perhaps a brand new sort of engineer that you're onboarding, is now going to have to pay a price, right, for understanding why something is the way it is. And heck, maybe they don't even come across your decision record, so they have no context for why this is the way it is. It just looks weird and perhaps not efficient. Perhaps if you've ever looked at the code base, like and you're like, why did they do it like that? Like, what were they thinking? Stupid idiots, right? Right? If you've ever had that reaction, there's probably a decision record somewhere, hopefully, right? Or some decision made by somebody, right, given some constraints that they had at the time that may actually no longer be applicable now, right? So having something that says this is when we should take this out, whether or not you do, right? But this is having some understanding that says, okay, everybody, we understand that this is supposed to be temporary, although that doesn't happen very often. This is supposed to be temporary. When these conditions are true, we can then remove this. So I find that to be a very sort of it provides a very balanced sort of approach to making technical decisions, and something that you can refer back to really to sort of gauge, okay, is this still the right decision? Is this still the right approach for us architecturally?
I really like that. I have that thing. I had that feeling. I heard somebody say once that if you see some code and you're just like, this is like wrong, and like that reaction of like someone like, why have they done this? This is like, I'm trying not to use language that is like, I'm trying to use nice language, but you can get angry about it. And then the point they made was there's always a great reason for it. You just probably don't see that reason, or maybe the reason's changed. I quite like the idea that you do that up front and as a thought experiment to see that. Yeah. If you like these top tips, by the way, everybody, please body slam that like button and
just knock it over
again.
Yeah.
Give it a quick suplex. Suplex that share. Get the word out. Shout at people.
Or slice it with a karate chop. Speaking of slices,
that's a nice transition.
Yeah,
I like that.
Transition. Subtle.
Speaking of slices,
is that a good transition? Slice it. Do a karate slice on it, which is that's not even a thing.
I was going to say we should take it to the arena, but maybe that's after this.
That's for later.
We're getting
professional. We're gonna take it to the mat.
We're getting too professional. Bring it down.
Okay.
Bring it down a peg.
Let's do the slices one first, though, because the slices one is pretty simple. So in Go 1.20, they've added a new feature where you can turn a slice into an array. So this is something, if you're new to Go, one of the things that you have to learn is just, the terminology, because the terminology from programming language to programming language is a little bit different. And one of the things, like if you're in Python, they have dictionaries, but if you're in Go, you have maps, right? And so if you're in Python, you have lists, but if you're in Go, you have slices. So Go has what are called slices, which are these dynamic length arrays. But there are also arrays, just plain arrays in Go, and those have a fixed length. So it's always terrible to try to talk about syntax on air, but let's give it a shot. So if you have a square bracket and then a number and then another square bracket and then a type, that is an array. And it will say exactly how many items in it. So you could have like a 4-int array, and you can say, look, I've got an array. It always has exactly 4 ints in it, and it's a 4-int array. So to turn an array into a slice, there has always been in Go this little thing where you just put the slice operator after it. You just square brackets and a colon, and then it turns into a slice. And so because slices are variable length arrays, it's always been very easy to turn an array into a slice anytime you need to do that. But in the last few versions of Go, they've been adding a feature to go in the other direction. So if you have a slice and it's long enough to become a particular kind of array, now you can just convert it. And so in Go 1.20, you could, let's say you're working with a hash, and your hash is always exactly, let's say, 32 bytes or something like that. So you could just start out with a slice, and then you could say bracket 32 byte parentheses, and you could turn your slice into an array just by calling it like that. So that's like it's a nice convenient feature for those times when you have a fixed length, you know exactly how long your thing is going to be. Now you can just very easily convert it from a slice into an array.
So what happens if you get the length wrong or something? Is that a
well,
panic?
if your slice is not long enough to be converted to this kind of an array, it will panic. So if you're not sure if it's going to be long enough, of course, you can just do an if statement and say if length is less than whatever, then don't try to convert it.
Yeah. And then in arrays, you can also do a little shortcut when you're declaring it at the same time. You can do the 3 dots to say, like, I'm going to declare an array and the size, and just infer the size from what I say next, basically. I guess that doesn't work because the point is you know the length, right? So
no, you can't do the 3-dot trick. The 3-dot trick requires the length to be sort of a constant that the compiler can figure out from context. So it doesn't work when you're converting a slice. It only works for things like when you're doing like you're typing in a literal array, and then it can figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool. Oh, nice.
Just a little, it's one of those things where somebody was like kind of bugged. They're like, I wish it was easier to convert, slices to arrays, because we can convert arrays to slices really easy. And they wrote up a proposal and they got it through. So good for them.
Yeah, good for them. Exactly.
And now we all benefit
too.
Yeah, no, that's the fun thing about open source is like everybody benefits when one person does the work to make something like this happen.
It's almost like you could say they provided some context with their proposal, and therefore it had a much better chance of getting through, right?
Oh, Johhny, it's such a good link.
Oh, wow.
I'm just gonna celebrate that with a little song about Johhny doing a great link. You ready? Oh, Johhny did a great link. Yeah, Johhny, you did a great link. Subtle.
Don't underline it too much. Like if you had cymbals and drums, that would be too much. But just the guitar, just a little guitar. Yeah. Indeed. The context package, it was something that when it came to Go, it felt like it was a late addition to Go, but now it's been in Go for like ever, and we don't remember life before context.
And it's everywhere, isn't it?
Now it's everywhere. Yep. Like it started off, it was just like, oh, we'll add it, but it's not really anywhere. And then like basically every type that can at this point supports contexts.
Has anybody done like a Twitter account of like no context Go code? It's just Go code with the context taken out.
They just put like a black bar over the CTX.
Yeah, just censor it.
Yeah, that sounds good. That'd be a great Twitter account if you could still make those API bots, which I think are now banned.
Oh yeah, no more of that. Yeah, I mean, if you got $100, you can still do that.
All right, not a big deal. That's worth $100 for that joke.
You just need to do
$100 a
jury
month.
duty three times,
Three
two and a half
times.
times. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
3
yeah.
times and some tax.
Three
Three
maybe,
times
but
in
yeah.
some time. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry.
Okay.
Maths.
You
Brilliant.
didn't
So-
shampoo this morning, Matt. So
No,
you can't do math yet.
No.
No.
I'm
So
pretty sure I
the
shouldn't be drinking
context,
it as well.
just chugging that shampoo.
It tastes
I think to
horrible.
listen to
And my hair.
people are going to have to chug the shampoo. So the context package, it defines an interface, and part of the interface is that you can cancel the context. So the main use of the context type in Go is to define deadlines. So you can say, I want this request to try to go in the next 2 seconds, and if it doesn't get done in 2 seconds, just give up and abort because by then the user will have already pressed back and gone away. So you can add deadlines, you can add timeouts, you can have cancellation. But one of the things that was kind of a flaw with the context package until now is that you couldn't say why something was canceled. You could cancel a request, but you couldn't say I canceled it because the user disconnected, or you couldn't say I canceled because we got a response back somewhere else, and so this is moot now. So what's new in Go 1.20 is now there's context with cancel cause, and that will tell you why something was canceled. And so you can just pass in there that when you're doing the canceling, oh, I'm canceling it, and then put in whatever error you want, and that'll be returned later when people look it up.
So on the consumption side, you have to know to ask for the cause, right? So it's not like it's gonna pop up.
Yeah.
You have to ask
So-
for it.
Again, going to that backwards compatibility thing, it would be really nice if they could just return it in the existing, context.error methods and whatnot. But with those, because they always returned a concrete error that you would just use equal on, they can't change it. So there's context.canceled and context.deadline exceeded. And because people have code out there that says if error equals context.canceled, do blah, 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 you can't change it because then their code will be broken. So this is like one of those sort of unfortunate things. And so the workaround to keep from breaking people's code is they just added a new method. And so if you use the new method, you could get the actual cause. And if you use the old method, you just get this kind of universal cause.
This is the perfect example of somebody who's coming into the language, looking at the standard library code for context and thinking, well, why are they so stupid? Why didn't just return the cause and the error,
why
right?
so dumb? Yeah.
Exactly.
People who make
But
Go dumb.
yeah.
That's what I've read on Hacker News, so it's true.
Oh man,
That's a hot take there, Carl. If you like our hot takes,
I might have to
1-inch
save that for
punch.
unpopular opinions.
You save it. Yeah.
I could get myself uninvited to all future Go conferences.
If you like these hot takes, 1-inch punch the subscribe button and follow along. But don't just click it. That would be no. That's
So should we
too-
talk about the memory arenas?
It's not
This
a
is
good
like the
sign when
secret.
The guest. It's not a
You
good
wanna
sign
take
when
it
the
to the
guest.
lab.
The guest is starting to do the transitions because I'm afraid that you'll play the pipe organ if I let you do it. It'll be like Phantom of the Opera. You like come down on your rope with a cape and play the pipe organ.
Mask on.
The
Good hair,
Phantom
fam.
of
You've got good hair.
Memory Arena.
good memories. Yeah, good memories.
So Go, as you guys are well aware, is a memory managed language or a garbage collected language. So when you use variables, when they go in scope, when they go out of scope, the language has a runtime. The runtime can detect that these variables have gone in and out of scope, and it will automatically deallocate them. And you don't get those things that you get in like traditional C or C++ programming, where you have to do memory manual allocation. And if you make a mistake, you could accidentally have a use after free bug, or you could have a using an uninitialized memory bug. You don't have those problems in Go. Well, what if we did?
What if you wanted to reintroduce allocation
wanted
and
this?
freeing?
So this is an experimental feature. And in fact, it's so experimental that originally they had it in the release notes for Go 1.20 in the draft version of the release notes. But right before publication of Go 1.20, they were like, let's just delete it from the release notes because we really don't want people to use this. But it is there. It's an experimental feature. And what it is it's called a memory arena. And the basic idea of a memory arena is that a lot of times when you allocate memory, you do it sort of in a batch. So let's say you have a web server, a request comes in, you allocate a lot of memory to deal with that request, and then the request is over, and you can just go ahead and free any of the new memory that you made for that particular request. Or if you have a game, you might say you're allocating memory for a particular level of a game, and you play the level and you get to the end of the level, and now you can just free all of the memory from that level. And so an arena is a way in manually memory managed languages of just making it simpler to use. You set up an arena, you use the arena for whatever length of the request is, or the level, or the whatever. In some games, you might do it all the way down to the level of like a single frame of animation. You allocate everything for that frame, and then you free the arena at the end of the frame. But whatever it is, an arena is just a way of saying, like, don't try to garbage collect inside of this area. We're just going to throw all of the memory away all at once at a particular time. So Go 1.20 has an experimental mode to let you use an arena in Go. Part of the reason that it's experimental is that the Go team are not sure whether or not this is a good idea. It is apparently, according to the publicly released notes, being used inside of Google in a few applications. And in the places where they're using it, they say that they've seen like performance increases of what was it? It was like 20%, 15%. So when used appropriately, it has the potential to improve CPU performance by 15% in memory allocation heavy applications, is what they wrote. So it is an interesting feature, but it also is a very dangerous feature, because if you allocate some memory in the arena and then you try to use it after the arena has been freed, all of a sudden you're back to the world of C and C++, where you could have a use after free bug. So one of the things that the experimental arenas package has to try to prevent that is the way that they allocate the memory. They mark it in such a way that when the arena is freed, if you try to touch any of the memory in that area again, it should cause a panic. And so their hope is that by causing a panic, at the very least, you'll see that there was a bug instead of having like a silent bug where you're getting back bad data and not knowing why.
Right. So this is going to be abused.
Yeah. Well, I think this is something that on the one hand, it's very exciting. Like if you're like a high performance person and you're like, well, I'm using Go and I like Go, but unfortunately, it's just a little bit too slow for me. I don't trust the GC. I don't trust the garbage collector. I want to do manual thing. And you can see these blog posts where like various, startups and even bigger companies have like done these crazy techniques of like, we patched in this whole other memory allocator and we manually memory manage it, and we use unsafe and we call through the C extensions and stuff. And it's, for people who are doing that kind of work, this is like exciting because it makes their life much easier. But at the same time, it's something where it's like, okay, well, just don't make any mistakes, because if you make a mistake, this is really going to blow up in a very ugly way.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah, do you have a response for that, Matt?
What, a song?
Yeah, please. You're just going to write an impromptu song about memory management. Karate chop the like button.
It's got a long intro, this one. I'm trying to think of some words.
I'm pretty sure this is the music that plays on my phone whenever you press like the For You memories or whatever, and it's like showing you pictures of when you took a picture of your lunch 10 years ago with your first iPhone.
That's right. That's me. I do it live. It's really annoying. I get a notification. It's like, they want to watch it. And I'm like, bloody hell. Yeah. No, I'm not going to. I can't think of any words.
Okay.
you know.
I once had memory, now it's free.
It's getting towards the end of the show, so we need to slow it down.
And
Yeah,
we're
just
gonna
relax.
slow this down. Now I want you to get in a position with your legs crossed. You're gonna close your eyes. You're gonna take a deep breath.
Wherever you are out there, you're doing your dishes, you're washing your
dishes,
clothes,
washing your clothes, thinking about Go memory
you're walking the
allocation.
dog.
And you're thinking, if I only had a
You're
tool.
thinking, why did I subscribe to Changelog Plus Plus?
If I could only free allocated memory. What an experiment.
Yeah. Okay. I think.
Oh wow. Yeah, this is this episode's gonna be a special one, I think. Yeah. So should we?
That's my response,
yeah.
Johnny. Is that a good response?
Yes. Yeah. Speaking
you
of
you wanted me to do something specific though, didn't you, in that response? Because I just did. I just did anything.
Well, there was something about an HTTP response controller. Maybe Carl can quickly address that for us before we start to wrap things up. What do you think?
What's a response controller?
So HTTP response controller, this is, I guess the theme of today's episode is backwards compatibility and the Go standard library. So one of the things in Go is that you have interfaces, but then you can also have extended interfaces. So you can do a runtime check to see whether something doesn't just have like a particular method, but you could see if it also has other extra methods. And so a very commonly used example of this is in the IO package. You have writers and readers, but you also have writer to and reader from, which are like sort of more efficient versions of IO, writer, and reader. And so when you're copying something, you could just pass around IO, readers, and writers, but the copy function will check, oh, does this have a reader from method or a writer to method? And then if it does, I'm going to use that because it's a little bit more efficient. So in the HTTP package, there have always been these sort of extended methods on the response writer. So there's the flush method. So what that lets you do is normally when you're writing out the body to a response, it just sort of is getting written when it's written, and you don't have any insight into when it gets to the client. But if you use the extended flush method, you can say, okay, make sure it gets to the client now. And then when you get back from the client, come back to me. And so not all response writers support that. What else is there? There's a push method, which is kind of deprecated now because that was part of HTTP 2, but then people decided they didn't like it and it was kind of taken out of HTTP 2. And there's a couple other ones. But the issue with these methods is it makes it really complicated if you want to write your own HTTP response writer interface, because now you have to like stub out all of these methods. And if you're wrapping something else, you have to not just create your own versions of those methods, but you have to figure out, okay, first, which ones does the thing that I'm wrapping implement? And then I'm going to match it up with a version that only has those particular methods so that when people look at me, they're only going to see the methods that my underlying thing has. And it's always been sort of a mess. It's been one of those things where it's like a good thing that Go has this ability to do extended interfaces, but in practice, it ended up being a mess. And people said, please don't use it because it just has these problems. So the response controller is a way of trying to get this, so to speak, under control. And what it lets you do is now you can add on your implementation of HTTP response writer an unwrap method. And with that, you can just pass through to the underlying type that you're wrapping. And so instead of you having to have all of the extended methods, you can just say, all right, well, really, I'm just wrapping this other thing. So go check with them and see if they can do it. So where this comes up a lot is people will write middleware and they'll want to know, well, did the response end successfully or did it not end successfully? And so they'll make like a little wrapper type. But
I've done that.
yeah, but when you do that, then suddenly you get stuck into like, okay, but now do I also have to implement flush and do I have to implement all the other methods? And the response controller just sort of is a backwards compatible way of sort of putting that all into a junk drawer and saying like, okay, just unwrap and then see what the other person is doing. And as long as the unwrap works correctly, you don't have to add all those methods yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Great. Okay. Well, we are running out of time, but thank you so much, Carl. That was really good. And that type sounds very useful. There is another one on the list, which I'm vetoing. It says changes to math rand. The numbers are random.
They're just
Carl.
random.
We're
They're
not
just
gonna
random.
Notice.
Well,
They're
the
meant to
problem
change.
was
That's the point.
the actual joke of the thing, which is true, is that they didn't used to be random and now they are. So,
Gosh.
and I guess it's
you gotta
backwards
seed
compatible
things
because
and
now you don't have to seed it anymore. Now it's just random. So
nice.
Oh. Did you notice that, Carl? You're like, hang on.
I
a
was
minute.
noticing. Yeah,
You seem smart like that, like Rain Man
I was
style,
just like
kind of.
looking at the numbers, like looking
you're
into the
like, "Wait,
matrix.
I know this.
It's Unix.
It's a Unix system.
Plan
So
9.
we should jump into you guessed it. It's your favorite part of the show. It's time for unpopular opinions. Unpopular opinions.
I actually think you should probably leave.
Unpopular opinion. Okay, who has an unpopular opinion today?
I do.
Carl.
So I've been on the show before, right? And if you can't make an
yeah.
unpopular
I knew
opinion, they
you
force
from
you to come
somewhere.
back. They make you come back until you get a really unpopular opinion. But I think this time I've gotten it. Although we'll find out. So my opinion is that if you eat a salad with a fork, that is barbaric. And the way to eat a salad is with chopsticks.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I need to hear your rationale on this one.
I'm kind of already liking this, but Carl,
Yeah.
why?
So my
Tell us.
rationale. So the history of this is that I lived in Japan for a while. I was teaching English over there, and they use chopsticks for everything. So whatever. I mean, of course they use chopsticks for salad and for spaghetti and for everything. They're just always using
Soup.
chopsticks. But then I moved to Hawaii, and Hawaii is part of the United States, at least at the present moment. I support Hawaiian independence, and that's not a joke opinion, although I guess it is unpopular. But they use chopsticks all the time too, and I was like, oh my god, these guys are right. Like, we should just be using chopsticks for salad, because using a fork for salad is barbaric. The little red tomato, those little baby cherry tomatoes, they just roll away. They're immune to forks. They're like born with this this tough outer hard skin that cannot be pierced by any fork in the world.
Fork off.
Yeah, no, it's fork off. That's what they say every time. And they
I don't think you can fork. I don't think you know how to fork right.
Oh. Well, but like when you use chopsticks, it's just so much easier. You just grab it with your chopsticks and you throw it in your mouth. I'm not saying you have to use chopsticks for everything. You shouldn't use chopsticks for, eating a steak. That would be very difficult.
So
you can't not with a steak, but with a salad.
But with a salad is already chopstick sized pieces of lettuce and tomatoes and croutons. All the things in the salad are already
big lettuce
chopstick sized.
I like
even that. You gotta get it in your mouth.
Large leaves.
Are you cutting it with your fork before you eat it? No, it's already cut into mouth-sized pieces, and so then you just grab it with your chopsticks and shove it in your mouth. And trying to do it with a fork is totally barbaric.
I don't cut my lettuce. I don't cut my lettuce. I eat it like a rabbit. Just large leaves. I just try to stick it all into my mouth.
What, you just eat it like a big apple?
Like a
That's a cabbage. That's a cabbage. That's not
lettuce. Is...
I guess you get it either way.
Matt, if it's green, it's a cabbage. Although there are green apples. Okay, I can see how you might make that mistake. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's not a mistake. It's a joke. But also, when you sometimes stab a tomato, its defense mechanism, it will squirt.
No, it'll squirt you. No, you got to get it all the way into your mouth, close your mouth all the way, and then you chew it down so that you're getting the explosion inside of your mouth and not on your clothes.
Okay, I am in on this. I think
I
this
disagree. I disagree.
Okay, so this is good. I've
Wholeheartedly.
already got an unpopular opinion with Johhny, so I think this is
Yes.
going to be the one.
Yeah, I'm going to at least try it. Are you
No,
going
I
to try
think-
it at least, John?
Well, so the other thing is, I
No.
grew up in America and I didn't use chopsticks
that?
until I was like 18 or something like that, 17, 18. And it turns out, it's not that hard. If you are somebody who can hold a pencil and write with illegible handwriting, then you can probably learn to use chopsticks.
I
there you
have metal chopsticks on
You have
my
metal
desk.
chopsticks right here. So there you
I
go.
have
Why?
metal
So Johhny,
chopsticks.
how you have metal chopsticks just lying
I
around on your
have
desk
metal-
and you're
I
not
do.
going to eat a
I
salad
do.
with them?
I do. You know why? You know why? You know why? Because
you
when
use it
I'm
for?
eating snacks at my desk, right? Maybe
You
like
use
Cheetos
it for
or
Cheetos?
something.
You use it for Cheetos,
Yeah.
but not salad? Johhny, you're even more civilized than I am. That's like eating the Cheeto with your pinky
Yeah.
out.
I mean, you can't put your greasy fingers back on your keyboard, man. I mean, what am I, barbarian?
Yeah, no. Okay, so Johhny, you're actually on my side. You're just like on another level.
Johnny, that's also a great idea.
Yeah, no, Cheetos with chopsticks. That's legit. Just
I mean,
eat
I did
anything
once-
that's greasy or rolls away
Anything,
or
yeah.
whatever.
I
yeah.
did once try, it was kind of half joking, but I picked up my drink with chopsticks. And I thought this is kind of like, it was hard.
Like your
but
coffee cup and stuff?
You
was
drink
a-
coffee
it
with
was like a-
chopsticks? That'd be impressive.
No, it was like a beer. What, just fast? Like,
Yeah,
if you go fast, you can do it. Yeah.
Just
I've
splashing
seen
your
enough
mouth
anime
with it.
where I'm sure they do that.
Yeah, I just picked it up,
Wow.
and I thought this is really cool because it's like the pint glasses in the UK have this like little bobble near the top, and that was really handy for it. And I'm like, this is cool. Dropped it, smashed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And are
smashed
you
the
allowed
glass.
in that bar anymore, or you're not allowed in that bar anymore?
I just don't go in because of the embarrassment.
Mhm.
They were like, "Oh, here comes that chopsticks guy again," and I'm like, "Yeah, it's me."
Keep
I
them
didn't
out.
have metal ones. Johnny, you've really surprised me. Then you're like, "That is insane. That's insane. You can't."
Here, let me use these metal
ridiculous. Let me
chopsticks
just
that I
have a
use for
Cheeto.
Cheetos. They're not for salad, they're for Cheetos. Come on, man.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, man. Yeah.
I've got an unpopular opinion. We are. This show is definitely running along. Hopefully, our listeners have stayed.
They'll
with us.
edit it all out, I hope. It'll just be
No,
2
they'll
minutes.
Edit it all in. Mine is on Twitter, and I know Twitter's a little bit unpopular at the moment itself, but I prefer the For You tab than the one that everyone complains about. Like, not all my friends are in my time zone, so I kind of need a bit of a digest, and and it serves it quite well. And the stuff it selects is the stuff I'm most interested in. I do miss things sometimes. I realize. So it's not perfect, but I think I might prefer the For You tab, or at least I like both. We'll see
Yeah.
if that one's-
I've switched over to Mastodon, but I still have so few people that like I'll just be trying to procrastinate, and I'll look at my phone and there'll only be like one new toot in the last 3 hours. I'm just following so few people, and so that's sort of that's where it is right now. But yeah, back when I was on Twitter, it is true that like at a certain point you can't be a Twitter completionist without driving yourself crazy, and so it is nice to have some sort of summary or the best
I
or
was
something.
hanging out with Chris Nova at FOSDEM recently, and she set up the Hachyderm Mastodon server, and that's really growing. There's like 50,000 people in there now. So Carl, maybe you want to join that, get in on that.
Well, I'm on the Mastodon.social. I joined like in 2019, and then I forgot that I joined until Twitter happened, and then I remembered that I had joined.
The Hachyderm project's interesting because they put priority on privacy, and like they're hosting it in the best country that they could find that made sense, like that really respects your privacy and doesn't let people snooping and things like this. So it's like really interesting little community there. And Chris did a great talk about that, which I'm sure will be available.
But
on
are they
the
going to
internet
add the
sometime.
For You tab? They're not, are they?
That's a good
Wouldn't they have to
question. Yeah,
violate your privacy to figure out what to show you?
That is for you.
Yeah. Could be. All right, Johnny. apart from eating Cheetos with chopsticks, have you got an unpopular opinion?
Hey, that's not a unpopular thing to do. It's a matter of fact. I think a lot of people are going to listen to this and be like, you know what? That is a great idea, mate.
I think
And
so.
then,
Yeah.
and then I'll be responsible for starting a whole new trend.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do have an unpopular opinion. I think layoffs can be a good thing.
Oh,
Case
really?
in point. I know it's probably going to be unpopular, right? But case in point, my time at Heroku is coming to an end, so I am ready for my next adventure.
Oh, right. Wow.
Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that, Johhny, but I mean, good for whoever finds you, you know.
Yeah.
Indeed.
How are you feeling about it, Johhny?
I learned a metric ton, as you can
Mm-hmm.
imagine. My teammates were like top shelf engineers, great org, great people, great teammates, great managers. I had a very good time. It was very productive, and but yeah, like all good things, now it's time to find what's next. So I'm gonna be out there. So this might be my first official, I guess, declaration that I'm gonna be looking for my next thing.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Well, you probably won't be looking for very long, knowing you. But
Thank
best
you.
of luck. Yeah. Just yeah. Wow. Yeah, I know. And it must be tough for people. I mean, and some of the ways that it gets announced and all these yeah, I feel like we could all do a bit better with that kind of thing. But well, yeah. I mean, I'm not worried about you, obviously, Johhny.
I'll be okay.
Yeah, I know. It'd be more than okay. You'll be like annoyed at the interest, I think. Especially after you've announced it on this.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't want to slag off Heroku, but I do feel like the way that they announced that they were going to start charging for the free dynos, I felt like that was a fair thing. But then they only later announced that, oh yeah, you can just put them on this special plan where you can have all of your old free dynos can now be on one shared, whatever it's called, plan. And they didn't announce that for a couple months, and by then I had already like killed all my free dynos, and I was like, oh, if you had just told me I could have kept all 20 of them alive for $5, I would have done it, but I wasn't going to pay $5 times 20, and so I just killed them all, and now it's too late to bring them back. So I don't know. I feel like management sort of made a mistake in the way that they announced that, and then
That's one of those reversible.
Obviously, the whole tech
or
industry right now
decisions.
is going. Yeah, it's a non-reversible decision. The whole tech industry right now is going through these layoffs, but so probably I don't know. Maybe it would have been inevitable, but I feel like that maybe contributed to some of their problems. Is just like bad sequencing of how they rolled that out.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, heart goes out to everyone that's affected by this stuff. It's not easy, but like, I quite like Johhny's attitude, which is this is opportunity and time to do something next, maybe.
Indeed.
But, yeah. Okay, brilliant. Well, that is all the time we have for sure. And, it's been such a pleasure digging into Go 120. Some really useful, exciting things in there. And I think people will be thrilled to hear about them. Let us know what you think. We're on Twitter at GoTimeFM. You can just do hashtags if you like, or I don't know if we are on Mastodon yet, but we need to sort of.
I think they're on Mastodon. I was trying to retweet it
Yeah.
before the show started, but I didn't see the toot, so maybe we're not. But I thought we were.
Yeah, I've
Wait,
never
you toot on Mastodon?
Yeah,
You don't.
Oh yeah, because
tweet?
it's a little.
You
It's a
don't
little.
retweet?
No, it's not tweeting. It's tooting because it's a little
Wow.
Mastodon, a little woolly
Okay.
mammoth.
Yeah.
And they
Everyone's
toot.
okay that also
Everybody
means
knows woolly
breaking
mammoths
wind.
toot. Yeah. No, we're fine with that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, we named our last president President Fart, so
That's very true in British. In British,
Yeah.
Trump does mean that is what that means.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, British
apart
people
from
don't
that,
realize
he was
that's
great.
also what Obama and Bush and Clinton, those all are also words for fart, just in American slang. So
Well, we change it whenever you get a new president. We haven't got over the independence thing, to be honest. So
Still holding a grudge on that one, huh?
yeah, a little bit. Well, we just deny it. You can just deny things now if you don't.
That you don't like, yeah. Deny.
Yeah.
Yeah. If
So
you
we
don't like
still-
it, it's not true. Yeah.
The king of America. King Charles.
You'll be back.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Did anybody tell Charles what happened to the first Charles? I feel like when you're picking out your reign name, you want to be like, and whatever did happen to that first Charles?
Good point. Yeah.
Pick up where you left off.
Maybe try a different name. I don't know.
Mm.
Like, wouldn't that be nice? You're like 80 years old and you change your name to be like, Reginald the Fourth.
It was on the cards. They announced it, like they choose the name when they become the monarch. And there's actually something where you'll never have a new British monarch called James, I think, because it means you have to admit that one of the other previous Jameses was legit.
You would have to pick your number. And it's like, if you, depending on what number you pick, you're like, yeah,
monarch if that person was true. So they avoid the issue.
Maybe they could just add another like usurper in there, and so then that would like be two bugs that would make a feature. It's like, okay, well, we don't know which of the two usurpers it was, so now it's all set.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, but it's a monarchy, isn't it? They're not known for the sort of outside thinking. I mean, it's just consider that this is like a modern country.
It could be like the Z index in CSS, where people like they set their Z index to like 1 million because they're just like, I just want to get higher. I don't know what it's gonna take, but I'm gonna try Z index 60,000, 50 million. As long as
they also set their clothes Z index the same, otherwise they'd just be naked because they'd be on top always.
But you could do that with the monarch. You could be like James the 5 millionth. Be like, I don't know how many Jameses were there before me. I'm James the 5 millionth.
Surely there hasn't been 5 million of them. So
yeah, that's not a bad idea. Or just like Charles Billion.
Yeah, Charles Billion is actually a very baller name. He should have just gone straight to Charles Billion.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I won't have.
We can't even end this show without getting derailed on nonsense.
Not without me committing treason.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, don't commit lèse majesté. Do they still have those laws in Britain?
I mean,
probably. I mean, they do. They just don't tell you about it because that would be lèse majesté. So
right. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Carl Johnson. Pleasure. You need to come back more often, not just when there's a major release of Go. But
we'll see you for 121, eh?
We'll see how the unpopular opinion goes. There might be demand that I never come back. People are just slamming that down arrow. They're just karate chopping the down arrow. Headbutting the down arrow.
Chopsticking it, yeah.
They're hitting it. Yeah, they're hitting it with their chopstick.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Otherwise, it's like a rom-com. It's like, let's meet back in 1 year. That's like a Richard Curtis movie with Hugh Grant as the lead. That's who plays you, Carl.
Is Hugh Grant? Or
yeah,
maybe
Hugh Grant plays you.
I could be the bottle in the message in a bottle.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah. You don't want to be the message? Who's playing the message?
There's the time traveler's wife. You could do that.
Oh yeah. Have you seen about? Oh, we can't. Let's do time travel movies next time.
Yes.
Thanks everybody. See you next time on Go Time.
Well, I would say there's no hope, except for that I've been on an episode with Mark Bates, and they somehow edited that to be good. So I don't know. The editors at Changelog can fix anything.
Indeed.
Joking. They're going to ruin it. Okay.
They're going to add Mark
goodbye
in
to all our
post.
live...
I think that's the solution. They're going to add Mark in post.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That explains it at least. Okay. I'm going to say goodbye to our
live watchers.